Hello, this is Roger Belcher with the Jacksonville Children's Commission. In this video, I would like to demonstrate how to create a budget for the summer camp sessions in SAMIS. I've logged into the SAMIS system, and the first thing I need to do is go to my program page. I can go there by recent or through search. I'll show search, and you get a grid with your program name. My program name for the development system will be PU2 test for today's video. I'll click that title or that program name, and now I'm on a program page. Your summer camp page would look basically like this. You would see the allocation for your summer camp. This example is $55,000. You would see a fiscal year. In your case, it would be a 16-17 summer camp. Or something very similar to that. That information would be given to you by your contract manager. The first thing I want to do on my program page is select other funders if that's applicable to my contract. If it's not, just watch how this is done, and you may have to do this in years to come. When I go to other funders from the detail drop down, and that's the way we get back and forth, by the way, from the program page into a screen. I have two set up already. One is the Chamber of Commerce and another for United Way of Northeast Florida. Let's say that I needed another one. I could go to New Program Funder. Let's say I want to do the Weaver Foundation. Make sure I'm in the right fiscal year, and I'm going to scroll down and find the one I'd like to add. There we go. I'll keep the data capture of budget level summary, and I'll click Save. Now I have three other funders selected for my program that will become visible on the General Ledger budget worksheet. So I'll go back to my program page, and I'll also illustrate that there's a pod for other funders, and I can create them from directly from the program page as well. Now let's say that you don't have any other funders, you're only being funded by JCC, then you don't have to do any of that. If there are some that are already selected, it will not interfere in any way, so you don't have to worry about that. Now then, we'd like to begin the budget process. And that would include looking at our Form 1 that you submitted in your RFP for summer camp. And here's an example of a Form 1. Get a little easier to see. We have, in the green field at the top right, we have an amount that represents an aggregate total of direct expenses. This would include our salaries and wages, direct operating expenses, etc. This will become our units of service line item value on the general ledger budget. This column on the far right, I refer to it as the gray column, will also indicate our other value-added direct expenses. I have one here for $1,000 for other transportation. I have another one for $3,000 for lease rent of equipment. This all totals up to a grand total at the bottom right of, in this case, $55,000. That should match your budget allocation on the program page, and in this case it does. And you may have more value-added expenses, but this example will show you everything you need to do to enter all of them in. It's basically the same process for each of these types of line items once we get to the general ledger budget. So let's go ahead and get started on that. To begin our budget, we're going to use the submenu Fiscal option. Fiscal, and then My Approval Queue. This is predicated on the assumption that you have been assigned the creator role. If you get to this point and you can't proceed because you don't have the right buttons to click, you would get with your contract manager and or the SAMIS team, samis@coj.net, by the way. And then we would be able to assign that role if it was necessary. In this case, I'll do new approval request. I'll make sure I'm on the right fiscal year. You're probably going to have something that says 16-17 summer camps on the production system. Today we're working in the 16-17 test fiscal year. And then you'll input your program name. PU2 test is mine, PU2 test, and it's type ahead, so you just type the first couple of characters. It will pull up what you have access for. Then for the area, I'm going to choose budgets and then start my request. And in a moment, we should have a general ledger worksheet. And, frankly, it's a little faster than that on most days. So it's like the afternoon, and a lot of people are on the system right now. So I have it ready to use now. The first thing I like to do is confirm my budget ID, 12773. Make sure I'm in the right program. And I'm going to check my allocation. Is it what I expect it to be as reflected from the contract? I'll also check my fiscal year, make sure I'm in the correct fiscal year. That looks good, so I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Salaries and accounts will not require any input. Again, this is all aggregated into this field on the Form 1 for total direct expenses, in this case $51,000. I'm actually going to proceed down to units of service, 735.2. That's where I want to put that $51,000 from the green cell on my Form 1. I'm going to click that units of service, and all I have to do is in the expense amount calculation field, I'll type in the full amount. No special characters, no dollar signs, no commas, and it fills that in for me. Amount funded by CSC should be what I'm looking for here to match my Form 1. Traditionally, we ask for a narrative, and often we do a formula here, but in this case, because it's coming from that automatically calculated field on the Form 1, you can put in any amount of description you want for our JCC Finance Department to review. I'll just put in an example here to save time. I'm going to click Save Expense. And in a moment, we should see the budget expense saved confirmation message. And then I'm going to click back to Summary. So we've got the first one completed at $51,000 for my units of service. Now, let me pull my Form 1 back over. This will be your template, of course. And so for my transportation, I see I need $1,000. So I'm going to find the correct line item. Student transportation looks to me like it's going to work. I'm going to go there and put in $1,000. Now I could still use the formula concept. Let's say that this transportation represents 2 field trips. I could do something like that, and then I have $1,000. Or if it's just one set fee, that should suffice. But please do, in your narrative, explain that at the level necessary for the JCC Finance Department to understand why you have that $1,000 there. And when you do the request for payment, the reimbursement request, you will be required to enter or upload a supporting documentation for this line item and all the others as well, including those units of service, which we document that from a report in SAMIS, which I'll explain later. So my budget has saved. I'm back to summary. I have one more line item to do. It's $3,000 for lease rent of equipment. And I'm going to scroll down. Lease rent equipment. There it is. And we'll go through the same process. So you see that all of your value-added line items will be done in this manner. There's no difference at this stage. Only which line item and the dollar amount you're putting in. Okay, so that one's saved, and I'm going back to summary. I have completed all the line items in my budget, and I should have a grand total that represents my allocated amount. And sure enough, I do 55,000, and that does match what was expected on the Form 1 right here and what my contract manager allocated for me as shown in the green field at the top. So there's one other thing I want to do now. I want to take care of my available other funders. So we added the Weaver Foundation. I put 1,000 in for that. Chamber of Commerce will be providing 500, and United Way will be providing 500 as well. Now, these other funder values do not affect the general ledger calculations. This is just another line of our funding that in no way changes the calculations for your expense accounts funded by JCC. So now I'm ready to save this budget. I get my budget saved confirmation as well as a yellow ribbon that tells me that's happened. And now I can forward it. And we'll talk about the workflow approval process in greater detail from the slideshow. But generally there's a creator and a submitter approver. And in many cases, it can be the same person. And that means you have to touch this budget twice before it gets sent to JCC. And so I can show you, you may have just heard my audible on my email message that I received. Pull that over. This is the email that the SAMIS system generated telling me that the budget ID 12773 for program PU2 in that fiscal year has been forwarded to the reviewer approver. And expect that sort of thing. If you have to save it first and then forward it. If you try to forward before saving, it may not have a good outcome. So definitely save first and then forward and look for that email message. Once you do that, in this case I am logged into a user account that is both the creator and reviewer, and I go to my dashboard and I have this approval queue pod, and I see my budget. I'm going to click it and complete the tasks of reviewing it. As a reviewer, I can open a line item, I can see the narrative and make sure everything looks good. And once I concluded everything is correctly entered, I do see my grand total at 55,000. I can submit it or I could reject it back to the creator. I'll submit it and we will probably get a message in just a moment saying that it's been sent to JCC. I do have that email. Let me pull that over. I do see budget 12773 has been submitted to CSC. CSC would be Jacksonville Children's Commission. And now I know, based on an email of this type, that my budget made it over to JCC. I don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to see it. It will be in the queue of your contract manager. The contract manager is going to go in, review it, and then do final approval. At this stage, I'm going to let you see something that you probably would never see otherwise, and that is me logging in on my account and approving this. And in my approval queue, there it is, PU2. So this is what your contract manager would see. They would get that. They would come through. They'd have the same capabilities. They could click on any line item, read your narrative. That's often what they're looking for in a budget, is to see the definition or explanation in the narrative. I'll click approve. I could click reject. This looks good, of course. And we will confirm approval. Processing, and the budget has been approved. Now then, I will log out. We'll log back in as the agency, be your role as a finance manager. And I'm going to pull over the email message that you definitely want to make sure you're looking for, and that is your budget has been approved. Congratulations. We'll give you the budget ID. If you have multiple program sites, you'll have multiple budget IDs, one for each location. And again, there's the final. So you want to probably save these off somewhere. And that is almost everything you need to know to complete the budget. The other thing you can do at this stage is go back in and take a look at it through fiscal documents. Let's say that it's been approved at some point during the year. You need to look at it. You go to fiscal documents, and you have filters on this grid. I have program, which is set up for PU2. That's what you would want. And then you have a request type. Mine set at reimbursement. We're looking for a budget, so I'm going to change that to budget. And there it is. And I can open it up from there and take a look at it, see the status. If we need to print that or whatnot, we can do so. Let me show you one other thing about this grid. Let's say that you come in here and you have no filters here. You're going to get a whole lot of stuff that you may have access to, or that you would have access to. To simply control your grid and the way it works, you can add a filter, program. In this case, mine was PU2. And then you can add request type. Request type allows you to go back and forth between reimbursements and budgets. Okay, so this completes the summer camp budget video that includes other funders. So you'll look for the accompanying video I'm about to create that shows you how to do the reimbursement for this particular budget or payment request, as we're calling them now, for summer camps. So thank you.